Assalamu alaikum, you're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rahman live from our Islamabad studios. Today we'll be talking about the ongoing atrocities in the Indian occupied Kashmir. That's a very important story, and now according to certain sources, the Indians believe that they will not open the internet service or the communication setup because of certain concerns. They do believe that the problem might ignite again. I mean, it's already there, it's existing, but people will be outside on the roads protesting again can result in a lot of casualties. So this is one of the reasons they have given. On the other hand, there's another very important story, and that is also, you must have heard in the news, about the United Nations Security Council's meeting on Kashmir tonight after the push of the Chinese. Though, unfortunately, when you look at the Americans or the Russians or French or British, the other 4 members of the Security Council, they still believe that the issue regarding Kashmir between Pakistan and India is a bilateral issue. It's a bilateral issue, and these 2 countries should sit and talk, and through a dialogue process should look after the matter. But at the same time, as we all know, that the Indians are not ready to talk or negotiate or even come on the negotiation table. But unfortunately, this is what they are doing in Kashmir, and not only in Kashmir, after certain laws which were passed by the Lok Sabha and then the Rajya Sabha, in which the Muslims were really marginalized. That has also caused a lot of problem for the Indian government, not only in certain parts, but I'm talking about Delhi, Hyderabad, Assam, Bihar. You go further south, problem is existing there. A lot of the chief ministers of Indian states, they have refused to, in fact, comply with the central government of India. Well, let's see what happens over here, but this is going to be the second meeting within the time frame of 6 months. So you can well imagine that the human rights concern is really important in that regard. So let's see what happens after that. But what do we need to do as far as the foreign policy is concerned, or the foreign office engagement is concerned? How do we market this issue, tell the whole world what exactly is going on in Kashmir and the kind of atrocities that are taking place there? Other than that, obviously, there are a lot of issues. So many people have been picked up, thousands and thousands of youngsters. And according to one report, around 18,000 youngsters have been put in various lockups all over India. So you can well imagine the kind of issue that is prevailing there. To talk about this, we have with us in our studio, on my right is Asif Durrani Saab. Durrani Saab is a senior ambassador, senior diplomat, sir. Thank you very much. And we have with us Air Vice Marshal retired Ikramullah Bhatti Saab, who is a senior defense analyst. Thank you very much, sir. And we have with us Janab Dr. Raja Kaisar Saab, who's a foreign affairs expert. Raja, thank you very much. Now, Durrani Saab, first of all, so let's start off from this UN Security Council meeting regarding Kashmir. That was obviously after a lot of push by the Chinese. But looking at the numbers, so one country wants to raise this issue, rest of the 4 still believe that it's a bilateral issue. And they are still sticking to it, not understanding and not realizing the exact problem and the magnitude of the problem in Kashmir, sir.
I think they realize what's the intensity of the issue or seriousness of the issue. But here the real politics is into play, and the 4 permanent members, especially France, with recent Rafale deal, and then you can say Britain, again, large business interests. United States, especially, with now almost $15 billion worth of defense deals for this year. And then Russia, to a greater extent, yes, that would also, that would weigh its options. So here we have to, look into the real politics versus then situation on the ground in Indian-held Kashmir.
Sir, in certain meetings, the concept of morality, does it exist or no?
No, it doesn't exist. It never existed. Except when the powerful, they would assert the moral right, and that too for their own interests. I don't find any reason, except for certain leaders who would, perhaps like Nelson Mandela, who would resign after 5 years of his presidency and say, no, it's enough. Or say Mr. Gandhi never accepting a public office, but at the same time enjoying the moral force. But that is gone. That's a history. But they were not representing the state. In fact, Nelson Mandela was more powerful out of office than what he was,
Well, he was
in
right.
the office. So it's real politics. There's no doubt about it. But at the same time, it's a pity that after 164 days of lockdown, India could not, make the Kashmiris to submit, and that is the biggest challenge to the Indians, and their claim that now they have settled the issue. In fact, they have, in my personal view, they have actually abrogated the Shimla Agreement, which called for the final settlement of the Kashmir dispute under Article 6 of the Shimla Agreement. And now, at the moment, there's a very dangerous situation whereby I think Pakistan would be justified if, in case the diplomacy fails, to have seek for the military solution.
Sip, I'll take advantage of your presence and I'll ask another question here. For example, there is a dispute regarding a land or water or anything else for that matter. So there's a dispute between two sovereign nations who are neighbors, and suddenly one neighbor, which is comparatively a stronger neighbor, pulls out of the even bilateral deals. Can they do that, sir, according to the laws of United Nations?
Well, normally it doesn't happen, but it has happened. Recent example is United States forget about the bilateral, the multilateral agreement or joint comprehensive program of action,
JCPOA, yeah.
JCPOA, and the President Trump withdrew from that. So it has happened. United States signed International Criminal Court's documents, its charter, and then unsigned it, withdrew it from it. So with regard to Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, United States signed it but has not ratified it yet. So it is its implementation which made the all permanent members to make it functional. So it is again is not functional. So it has happened, yes. So they can withdraw. So if the Indians have done it, it means then they have created a situation
where they can withdraw from the 1961 water treaty, sir. Maybe from other issues as well. I mean, there is a probability if that can be
They have
done,
been
and they're not ready to
indicating to
negotiate
that effect, and I think there are ample reasons where the international bodies such as Security Council should take cognizance of the severity of the situation, which is operating between India and Pakistan. Yes.
All right. Now moving on to you, AVM sir. First of all, your take on the same point, sir. Now it is also believed that the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO) they will be holding their next summit in India, sir. The dates are not finalized yet, but they say end of this year. Most likely, sir, the Prime Minister, if he is going to go there, there is a high probability that he might end up meeting the Indian Prime Minister. And now, if we go back, sir, I still remember when in August this Article 370 and they were abrogated, curfew was imposed throughout the valley and the entire Indian occupied Kashmir. And I was interviewing a gentleman here, and he said that it's been 5 years. Then he said, no, one day we'll be sitting here and we'll be saying, oh, it's been 5 weeks. Then we'll say it's been 5 months. So the time has actually come now. So it's been 5 months. Now, what exactly is brewing in their minds? I'm talking about the Indian movers and shakers and the major individuals sitting in the corridors of power out there in Delhi, sir.
Okay, before I comment on that, let me allude once again or add to our discussion on the Kashmir being taken up again in the UN Security Council. I think this is a very interesting situation now because it once again reiterates or proves that all proceedings and outcomes of UN are purely interest driven. There is no morality.
Absolutely.
There is no legality. They are only interests. Because from 1948 to 1965, there have been 23 resolutions in the UN Security Council on Kashmir. And the last one was in 1962, which was, of course, vetoed by Russia. And in that, France, Britain, Germany, USA, China, then it was the other Taiwan, they all supported it. There were 2 abstentions and 1 against, and Russia vetoed it. And now we see that these countries like USA, France, Britain, they are inclined on
Towards
the Indian
India.
side. And we have Russia, who in the last discussion in the UN on Security Council on Kashmir, which was of course sponsored by China in August last year. While Russia, of course, did make a comment that it is a bilateral issue and should be solved
Dealt bilaterally, yeah?
through the Lahore Declaration, similar agreement, but at the same time, Russia, for the first time ever, referred resolution of this issue under the UN Charter. And
So
under
basically
the,
they accepted that
under,
it's
under
a-
the
it's a
UN
UN
Security Council resolutions. It was for the first time ever. So now here we have Russia drifting and taking up a new position, and here we have USA, UK, France taking up another position, and it is all interest driven. But the fact remains that it has once again come up in the Security Council, and not only that they're going to talk about the atrocities and human rights violations in Kashmir, they're also going to talk about the security situation across the LOC. And it is also learned that the UN Military Observer Group is going to give a special briefing, which is going to be very interesting because there have been over 3,000 violations of the LOC since the last 1 year. So that is, I think, a very interesting development, and let's hope that there is a positive outcome out of this, and the UN does consider it and take
So
it
over here
as
we
it
are
is.
hoping that we will hope. But hope is a great thing, sir, for sure. But what's the probability, sir?
Probability is little because so far I think the world opinion has not mobilized to an extent that it has generated enough momentum for these important countries, the permanent members of the UN Security Council, to shape their policy or view towards India in favor of the Kashmiri people. That has not yet happened, I believe. But I can see that it is on its way, because gradually over the last couple of months we have seen that Kashmir has found more and more coverage in the international media, and there are more and more people talking about it.
Correct.
Not just across the world, but even in India. So I think there is hope, and hope is, I think, gaining its visibility, and I think we can look forward to a constructive and a positive development or an outcome from the UN Security Council.
Let's see, sir. Rasab, your take on it, sir.
Well, thank you, Faisal. I don't see any positive inkling, frankly speaking. Reason being that these kind of meetings, they are meant to, meet, weep and leave. So
Just note down the minutes, make a file.
yeah, that's it. Because since China is the permanent 5 member, and they have actually put an application that this issue needs to be taken up. So it's just like one another issue that they are going to take it up, and they are going to discuss it in as a
So when
routine
you say
matter.
that China has taken up this issue, so what I'm going to ask you now is that, is it on the behalf of Pakistan that this is what Pakistan is facing at the moment because of this, or is it regarding the human rights? Because when you talk about human rights,
No, it is-
there are a
it
lot
is-
of
it
issues
is
regarding China as
primarily-
well in the
yeah,
international
yeah,
arena, which are making headlines, unfortunately.
Yeah. It is primarily Pakistan-centric development. China is doing it on the behalf of Pakistan. So what is astonishing right now in India, and what is going right now in India, is that there is an interesting dichotomous situation. You see, Kashmiri Muslims are saying that we are not Indians, and Indians are saying no, you are Indians, and Indian Muslims are saying that we are Indians, and Indian government is saying that no, you are not Indians. So this is the most paradoxical equation right now. So, and India is undergoing a May phenomena. Modi, Amit Shah and Yogi. So this May phenomena is reshaping the societal contours of India. It is impinging Indian society to a great deal. The way it is ending up being a parochial society, and the way they have made a departure from their secular pluralistic values. So, and what is and we are seeing that's outright manifestation in Kashmir as well. Uh, what is more agonizing over here is, the way we, picked up this issue and the way we lost our zest in the middle. You see the way Pakistan, it dogged into a political mess, and afterward we, stopped trumpeting about this issue. Because the way we actually picked up this issue, we were very hopeful that, the things would go forward. And things, they were really, actually securing mileage for Pakistan. But over the past, you see, 1 month or so and 2 months or so, we haven't seen any concrete development from our foreign affairs, from even our political elite. So
There was
that
just
is-
one complaint lodged, I remember, regarding the change of the map of India in the northern
and that
part
is
and
that
the
is why, Faisal, you
western
see,
part.
India
what is that
has
supposed to mean?
altered the demographic reality of Jammu and Kashmir uncharacteristically, and they haven't gotten a single denouncement from any part of the world. You see, the rest of the world is perturbed over what? Internet blockade and curfew. No one is taking India to the cleaners over what they have done on August 5.
Reasons have been given.
And
but
I
we must
remember,
know
I
that
remember,
Obviously, it's more about the
and
economic
I
interest.
remember
It's
once
about money.
NDTV's editor, he made a remark, and it was a prophetic remark. He said that if the rest of the world would gauge India onto a moral pretext, they would never be able to do trade with India. So that is the most agonizing reality of our times. We are living into a paradoxical world with the, competing standards and with the contradictory ideals. So that is what is happening right now, from USA to Britain to the European Parliament to all the dignitaries who have visited Jammu and Kashmir recently. All of these things, they are actually buying India's argument. You see, what, I hereby quote Arundhati Roy. She says, that what is wrong with India, that, India is simultaneously living in 3 centuries. The majority of the Indians, they are living in the 19th century. And a handful of the majority is living in the 20th century, and a very bare minimum of them are living in the 21st century. So this is, you see what is happening right now in India. The logic which they are giving for that suffocating curfew, that we are not going to give them civic liberties, but we will develop them. Come on, what on earth justifies this logic in this present
Then they say this is an
globalized
internal issue of
world,
India
that
and-
we are going to confiscate your basic human fundamental rights, but we will develop you in return. And the rest of the world is not actually denouncing this thing, and I am really hopeless in this scenario. What is happening to Rohingyas? What has happened when the issue is now, for, like you were saying, that now it's 5 months, it would be now 5 years down the line. The Rohingya issue is now 4 or 5 years.
But the problem is that at the end of the day, what we have understood and what we have realized that primarily there are 2 things now. Rohingya issue, obviously, that's slightly different because we are not
But that's
directly
again
related, but
an
that is
impending
an issue
genocide,
of
na?
Muslims. So a man who took a decision and gave a very strong statement was none other than Tayyip Erdogan regarding that, right, sir? Or maybe Mahathir Mohamad to some extent. When it comes to Rohingya, whole Muslim world was quiet. I hardly heard anybody issuing a single statement. Now come back to Kashmir, sir. Hardly any statement again. Even from your allies. Now the problem is that I do understand that
Even
when
they
Saudi
have been
Arabia wants
giving
to
the
invest
highest civilian
70,
awards.
80, fine enough. Then we should also look inward and see where did we go wrong. What is our problem? Is it about the economic strength, or should we always believe in that old concept of Muslim brotherhood?
I have just one point to add. The discussion is getting prolonged. You know what Ambassador would bear me out because he had been a long-serving practitioner of foreign policy. But our foreign policy has been hostage to what? To an event-specific trajectory. We always, devise our response according to a situation which is developing.
You're not proactive.
We
You're
never do
reactive.
scenario planning.
Reactive.
Ambassador Abdul Basit is repeatedly saying that I have been writing this since 2014 that India is going to revoke Article 370. Where was our scenario planning? You see, and even then, when we have been reactive to this situation, what has happened on August 5th, we took it with all zeal and zest, and we said that, we are going to take it forward. Prime Minister said, I am the ambassador for Kashmiris. We are going to, stand tall and towering with Kashmiris. We will mark a solidarity hour with Kashmiris on every Friday. We will take it to the all capitals of the world. What is in the nutshell?
We'll definitely, I mean, that's a very
We'll have
legitimate
to
question.
assess. We'll have to make
So
an
you want to add
assessment.
something before I put
I
another
mean,
question?
Rajasthan is becoming emotional. That's not the way of conducting diplomacy or interstate relationship. There's a civilized way of doing things. India has occupied it, and its occupation till the time Pakistan does not accept that occupation, it will remain an occupied territory, period. There is no power on earth can undo the UN resolutions on Kashmir, period.
Then why do these countries,
So, and
which
then-
are the members of the UN Security Council,
Let me finish.
them?
UN Security Council works on certain patterns. It's a council for small countries, not large countries like Pakistan and India. Let's be clear about it. China has encouraged this debate and asked for the debate because China has the right to invite that debate. But that would be an informal debate. Formal debate, if there's a formal debate, then there's a likelihood of veto, which was done. Like Air Marshal Saab referred in 1961. It happened. So Soviet Union, former Soviet
So
Union.
if it's
vetoed it.
vetoed, it's back to square one, sir.
Yes, nothing moves. So veto, that's why in 2003, even France did not use the veto, but they said we oppose it, it means veto, while it had not formally come to the UN Security Council. So there in the Security Council, when you are talking about an issue, first the P5, if there's an agreement among the P5, then it is put to vote. And if the P5, one of the countries, they say no, it means it's veto. Even presidential statements which are anodyne, which have no moral legal authority, take almost weeks to be finalized in the informals. And then it comes to the formals, and then only then. And then afterwards, then there are resolutions under Chapter 6 or 7. Yours is a case of Chapter 6 resolutions, not Chapter 7.
And what is the difference between the two, sir?
Chapter 6 is the pacific resolution of disputes. And Chapter 7 is that you have to enforce by force those resolutions.
That becomes a mandatory.
Yeah, so that's for instance, against Taliban, Al Qaeda, and all those resolutions like 1373, 1267, 1368, those were under Chapter 7. So whether you like it or not, you have to put to account to those people. So there is a lack of understanding in our country among some of the scholars also and politicians that they don't. It's not you are going for a shopping and then you have the money and you'll buy everything. It doesn't happen like that. But money has a power. And that's how India, in sense, it's in the field and it is a big economy, so they are working. But having said that, India is an occupying force in Jammu and Kashmir, and there are resolutions. Unless you bring in another resolution where it decides either way, India cannot change the character, even if they want to and even if they have done it. So the illegality of the Kashmir dispute remains forever till the time Pakistan agrees to that, period. Lest we have no ambiguity in our minds because it didn't happen like this or that. Whatever they are doing the gimmickry and it is not working. And on the ground situation is not favoring India. 164 days of lockdown. And Kashmiris, they have just given their vote. And that is the plebiscite, actually. So India is in a big dire strait than what we think Pakistan is.
So do you believe that the calculations of the Indian government of Modi, they were not 100% correct regarding
It backfired,
Kashmir?
actually.
Do you think they were expecting this to happen?
They were not expecting it. It backfired. They thought that perhaps through force they would be able to enforce their will. Whatever has come into Mr. Sarwarkar's mind 70 years ago, or whatever their practitioners now thought about it, so there is other side as well. And that is reacting, even if through a pacific way. But they have given this, the message loud and clear that we are not going to submit to your dictates. period. I mean, it's shame for India. It's shame for the largest democracy which it claims. So we have to be clear in our minds. China waited for Macau of 350 years, for Hong Kong 150 years. When China was weak, it could not get it.
Yeah. They first
But
of all
once
developed the
China
strength,
got
and then
the
they had
strength,
put their foot down and nobody. I
Even
still
then,
remember.
even then, they did not use force. Even then, they did not use
They
force.
still believe in the old formulas of
Of course. So
their
build your
elders.
muscles. Build your muscles.
economic muscle
And then
primarily.
Kashmir
sir.
is, yes, of course. So Kashmir is only a matter of time. And finally, this fight will be done by Kashmiris and Pakistanis. Don't depend on the world.
It's your own war, you have to fight it yourself.
Yes.
Simple as that. Now, sir, there was a statement, AVM Saab, by the new Army Chief of India. And he says that if the Parliament allows me or gives me a green signal, it's a matter of time that we can always get inside the Pakistani territory and we can capture Azad Kashmir and we can also capture Gilgit-Baltistan. And this is what they have shown in the new map as well, sir. Now, how do you see that statement coming, sir, from the new chief? I'm sure he's following the footsteps of the former Indian military chief, who is now the head of the defense forces, sir.
Well, you have answered it yourself that the previous Indian Army chief was rewarded for his political statements that he had been making over the years by the Indian government, wherein he's made the new chief of defense staff, a new post that has been created with new mandate, with new rules, regulations, I mean, which were actually prepared to suit him specifically. So the new Indian Army chief has this example or precedence in front of him, and from day one he is wanting to follow the same footsteps and be on the right side of the Indian government. And this is a typical political statement, and primarily to address, of course, the Indian public, and of course divert their attention from whatever is going on right now in India. Whereas being the Indian Army chief, he fully knows, or he ought to know, that India today is militarily not in a position to go in an all-out war with Pakistan. They are not prepared.
Sir, I was watching a documentary, so honestly, sir, maybe it's a misconception or maybe that we have closed our eyes, sir. They have acquired the top-of-the-line latest Apache helicopters. I'm just going to give you an example, because we normally talk about Rafales and the upgradation of their Russian technology, or maybe the new F-21s they want to manufacture, maybe acquiring the technology, or maybe given 200 top-of-the-line drones by the Americans and intelligence sharing, you name it, use of the bases, everything. Brand new C-130, sir, and there's a long list. Apache helicopters, again the training and so many other factors. I mean, they are acquiring ammunition left, right and center, sir. And that is primarily the reason, when you talk about French or you talk about the British or the Americans or the Russians for the S-400 missile battery system, sir. I mean, that has changed.
That will happen, or that will change maybe in 3 to 4 years from now. Not today, not tomorrow, not in the tenure of this new Indian Army chief. And we know what is the state of morale of Indian Army. We know how much Indian Army is deployed in Kashmir. We know, in fact, everybody knows that no army can fight without the support of their own public.
Sir, all these goons who have supported Narendra Modi, and look at their number, look at the number of votes he received. I mean, these are all supporters of Modi. They believe in his philosophy, sir.
The India-Pakistan war is going to be in Kashmir. It's going to be in Punjab. It's going to be in Rajasthan, not in UP. So, if we are expecting that the Kashmiris will support the Indian Army against Pakistan, are we expecting the...
Do you think they need the support of the Kashmiri people, sir, to sort of penetrate in our sides, sir?
You see, the moment Indian Army mobilizes for an all-out war, the Kashmiri people would be there present. And while the Indian Army is engaged on the borders, it will be the people of Indian-held Kashmir who will be free to move about. And take the case of Sikhs in Indian Punjab. How will they respond to, how will they react in this opportunity, I would say. So, this is one aspect of the entire, thought that has come into the mind of the new Indian Army chief. And then, of course, when you look at the events of 26, 27 February, the Indian Prime Minister clearly expressed his lack of confidence in the Indian Air Force by making that statement that had there been Rafale aircraft, the outcome would have been different. Then we later learned that they had deployed a lot of missiles to retaliate. That means he knows that his Air Force is not competent enough, so he has to base his plan or retaliation on the missile force, not using his Air Force. So, I mean, that is coming from the highest level of leadership of India, that they have a total lack of confidence in their own Air Force. And as and when the Rafales arrive, as and when they get trained, they get operationalized and the Indian Air Force is ready, I am sure Pakistan Air Force would be equally equipped. And if today the Indian Army Chief says that I am waiting for orders from the Indian Parliament, and I think it's just a purely political statement, not thought out and basically addressed at the Indian public. And
Raza,
not to be
wasn't
taken
that a
seriously.
well thought out statement?
No, not at all. And it was just a political incendiary. It was a demagogy and oratory because his predecessor had been doing a lot of chest thumping, and so he had to keep that trumpet on, and he had to tell it to the people that I am too a tough guy and I can actually teach Pakistan a lesson. This was just, I mean, I totally agree to what AVM Saab is saying, that it was only directed to the Indian masses. I mean, because if you see what he was saying, if you split it down to the doctrinal and the operational level, it is not executable. I mean, from which side Indians they are going to move to occupy Kashmir?
LOC?
LOC. Don't we have our own deployments across the LOC? Don't we have our own conventional strength? I mean, okay, fine. Will they move all of their troops across, the working boundary and from the international border to that side, and then they will mobilize?
There are about 1 million troops already stationed in Kashmir, sir. And
Yeah, but
they have brought in more fresh troops as well.
But it is just a public demagogy.
They have installed missiles, BrahMos, there as well,
And
sir.
and you know what they have done.
And the LOC has been breached from
Fine,
a
but
lot of
but you
points.
know but you know what happened, that they shot down their own plane, and they had been hiding the fact for 6 months till Modi's campaign 2.0 was over, and then they disclosed it that we shot down our own plane by mistake and we killed our own 6 troops. So that's something, this is something just, I mean, I don't see that happening, and this should not be even taken seriously. This is just a public oratory. Coming to the discussion, I mean, I would like to add what Ambassador was pointing out. Yes, he is a diplomat, and a diplomat is a born optimist, and I really appreciate it. So, but, and I don't advocate.
the art of possible.
Yeah, and it's the okay. So I'm not advocating any radical step. Neither I'm promulgating any kind of aggression that we need to be overly aggressive. And I totally and 100% concur to this argument that we'll have to set our own house in order. And I also go by this argument that there are certain disputes which you have to take down to the generations to resolve them. Their overnight solution is not possible. But I think I mean, I'll please excuse me being a bit academic over here, since it's my training to be academic. There is a public policy model which we call as a stream metaphor model. It was proposed by Kingston, and he says that there are 3 P's. One is policy, one is problem, and one is politics. When they converged onto a single point, there opens a window of opportunity. I think, this is my understanding, that we have gotten that window of opportunity on August 5th. Because we were unable to brand this issue.
Have we capitalized during
That's
the 5 months?
there I have my own question marks. The fact of the matter is that we have gotten that opportunity because we were unable to brand this issue internationally because we were dogged into our own mess, a long exhausting war against terrorism, our own domestic political instability, and all of these things which were making it a very arduous deal for us to take this issue to the international forum. But Modi did it, and it got internationalized on its own. I have my slightest reservations on this thing, that we haven't capitalized on that afterward. We could have gotten more.
Okay, let me take
mileage
this. Now, sir, do you think we could have done a lot better than what we have done? Because according to our foreign minister and according to the team which was sent all over, and whether you talk about UK or you talk about France, or I mean, you still need to be aggressive. You already have your offices there. You need to have certain people who need to do some sort of engagement with the people, with the public, raise the issue, be a part of the think tanks there, be moderators, be somebody at the panel. You know, that's how you raise the issue and you sort of spread it out, sir.
Well, everyone knows it. Raja Saab also knows it. He's an academic. He enlightened us with his 3P model. But how to apply it, please let me know. Enlighten us. That's being done. Everyone knows. The practitioners know probably better than the theorists. They know what is the situation on the battlefield. So that is being done. As I said, again, I hope Raja Saab will give us some theoretical model on that UN resolutions are there. They cannot be replaced. They can only be replaced once Pakistan agrees to its status.
But what's the delay, sir?
Oh, that's because your muscles are quite weak. Your economic muscles are weak.
So meanwhile,
So
as
build
long
it.
as our economic muscles
here
are weak,
here lies the solution.
Modi is constantly going to the gym, sir, in that case.
But Mr. Modi, what he has done a blunder now. And if he has done a blunder, why should I disturb him? Why should I? Napoleon said, don't disturb your adversary if he or she is committing a blunder. Why should I disturb? So I think let's be patient and persevere. We are persevering, I think. No government worth its salt has ever said that will forego Kashmir. None. Period. I mean, there are certain constants to which you are not going to compromise. And this is what precisely we have done. Well, say, okay, what China has done against India. They are equally a partner with regard to Ladakh and all that. So, what have they done? So, should I be criticizing Chinese? You haven't taken action. There are things which take time. And it will take time. But having said that, ultimately it would be Kashmiris and Pakistan who would be ultimately doing the final round.
Do you think people have that kind of strength, sir?
Well, these people are going to stay, I think. Why would they change it? Why would they change? Unless there are certain theorists who talk about Ghazwa-e-Hind. So let's have a realistic debate. And let's have a realistic approach to the issue. And which we are doing. Everyone is doing. But of course, in diplomacy, you don't do things in public most of the time.
So there's a lot going on.
Of course, it's going on. Of course, that's why India has. Otherwise, India would have just galloped it.
All right. Now, sir, talking about earlier before the start of the program, we were talking about the SCO. Now, sir, do you think this forum, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, holds that kind of strength where you have got 4 nuclear powers as permanent members, Russia, China, Pakistan, India, and so then you have so many Central Asian states, then you have got observer states. Primarily, sir, it's a very strong body. Do you think countries like Russia or China, for that matter, in the long run, they all want peace in the region, sir, because they're looking this way? Do you think they can actually persuade India in one way or the other to sort of put a halt to what they're doing, sir?
Well, you see, SCO does provide a very effective, a very useful forum, and does provide a very good opportunity to tackle this issue. But the fact is that here we have India, who is pursuing American interest vis-a-vis China, and which is like an elephant in the room, you see, with that kind of a influence that the Indians are under the American influence. So with that we come to almost, if not a halt, we slow down, and SEO being a platform, being an opportunity, becomes skeptical that will we move forward, will we achieve, while everybody is interested. But whether India is also interested or not. Although pragmatically speaking, if India were interested, then of course if this region becomes peaceful, the Chinese project of one belt, one road and connectivity, the Indians decide to do to join in, and they come on the project, and they of course they have a connectivity all the way to Central Asia, Europe, and even to Middle East and Africa.
Yes.
So it is going to give tremendous well-being for the Indian people, but that will be at a cost of, you see, losing their support from the Americans, and of course accepting Chinese kind of dominance or influence over them, whereas the Indians in their own right are wanting to claim a new position of power. So that is where the stumbling block.
All right. Now, Raj Sahab, over to you. And it is also believed that in July, Moscow, this is primarily an invitation of the Russian president, Russia is going to host a meeting where the heads of state of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization will meet. And we have also learned that one of the groups is going to be chaired by the Indians. What sort of an impact do you think that they can have actually after sort of raising the concerns?
There is one thing. I mean, you cannot deny India's ever-growing clout into the region. Then you see their international clout and their economic clout, their political clout, their diplomatic clout. Like Ambassador was pointing out, you know, there are two things. One is, you know, yes, what he is saying is right, that unless Pakistan does not cede in, it remains as a dispute. But there is a fact that they have changed a status of Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, and that too for the foreseeable future. And that is now a reality. I mean, even if it is not a de jure reality, but it is a de facto reality. That they have changed, I mean, they have split down Jammu and Kashmir into two union territories, and they have annexed it. And there had been no condemnation from any quarter of the world. No one has taken India to this. I mean, even those who are the promulgators and those who behold this institutional order in the world.
You want it to be mine and his match, or we should focus on the
On the issues, this like
I mean, Rajasthan, these are the issues where clear red lines are there as far as Pakistan and India is concerned. Inside, it is already in occupation of the Kashmir, whether Article 370 or not. It is for the Indians inside India to debate this issue. For Pakistan, Article 370 has no meaning.
we never accepted even.
We never
prior to that.
accepted it. 35A, we never accepted it. So for us, it's meaningless, whatever they want to do, whether they bifurcate it or not. For us, the Kashmir dispute stays as it is as per the UN resolutions, period.
The way it was before.
Yes.
But
No matter what they do,
there
the
is-
changes.
there is-
Raj Sahab,
there-
last closing remarks from you.
Yeah, but there is an important contention that it is essentially is not a territorial dispute only. It concerns the millions of Kashmiris as well. It has a profound impact on their lives.
So they are struggling, we are struggling. We have
So-
not given a carte blanche
But,
to
but
India.
no, but where I'm saying that we have given them a carte blanche.
Forget
I'm
about the
just-
international
yeah.
community, Rajasthan. Forget about the international community. We will have to fight.
No,
and
we are
fighting.
existing in the Committee of Nations.
We are fighting, and we will continue to fight. Of course, there are ways how to fight. This is what we are doing.
So the
So, I
involvement
mean,
of
there's
Pakistan.
ways can
And
be
when it
debated
comes
about
to
it. Most
SEO,
importance.
when it comes to SEO, it's a multilateral forum. So India can preside. Someday Pakistan will be presiding. Someday there will be summit in Pakistan.
All right.
So we cannot, pick up certain
So
issues.
that's
on
not the
that.
benchmark primarily. So last 30 seconds, Raj Sahab, please, your closing remarks, sir.
Yeah, I think, I agree to this point. It is not going to have any profound impact that if India will be presiding a session, because it happens to be a multilateral organization with an extended membership. So I think the need of the hour is that we need to perhaps take up the things in more proactive manner.
More proactive manner. But
Yeah.
that's the key, basically. You know, you need to be exerting more pressure. But anyway, Rasa, thank you very much. So thank you very much, and best of luck. It was a pleasure, sir. That's all we have for this hour. I'll see you tomorrow, inshallah, at 8. Till then, you take good care. Khuda Hafiz.